We humans, right? We're always kind of bumping up against this huge question. What's it all about? What's the point?
Hmm.
Especially when the universe just feels so indifferent sometimes. This real yearning for meaning, trying to make sense of how weird existence actually is. Okay, let's really dig into this today. This deep dive is all about that search for meaning.
It really is fundamental, isn't it? That drive, we have to figure out where we fit, what our purpose is in this huge cosmos that, well, it didn't exactly come with instructions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No user manual. And that takes us right into, existentialism.
The heart of it, yeah.
That's where we're heading. We're going to explore the core ideas of existentialism and how it deals with that hunger for meaning, those feelings of, well, being alone in it all, and that sometimes unavoidable feeling that things are just absurd. And for this, we've got some really interesting stuff to draw on. We're looking at insights from Existentialism for Dummies, the bookie version, a really fascinating Reddit discussion where people are honestly talking about coping with meaninglessness, and articles from Philosophy Break and BetterUp on existential crises and, the meaning of life itself.
Right. And our mission really is to pull out the key takeaways from all these different angles.
Yeah.
We want to help you get a clear picture of how existentialism offers a way to navigate these big life questions, maybe even shed some light on your own path to finding meaning.
Okay, let's get right to it then. What is existentialism fundamentally?
Well, at its core, building on some earlier ideas, existentialism really stresses that your existence comes before your essence. Basically, it puts the individual you and your personal experience front and center, especially in a world that doesn't hand you a pre-made meaning.
Right.
And this focus often comes from really grappling with feelings like despair, alienation, feeling totally free but also completely adrift.
Yeah, that feeling of alienation. Existentialism for Dummies mentions that directly. It feels like the philosophy just acknowledges that, hey, life isn't always neat answers and built-in purpose.
And that's a huge break from a lot of traditional thinking, isn't it? Existentialism often pushes back against that purely objective, rational detachment you see in science or older philosophy. It argues that, okay, that stuff might explain how things work, but it totally misses the boat on the personal quest for why, for meaning.
Philosophy Break points that out too. That shift to the first-person view is key.
Absolutely.
So, okay, if we're not looking for some big external truth, we turn inward. But if there's no blueprint for meaning out there, where do we even start? Passion comes up a lot.
It does, yeah. But the existentialist idea of passion isn't just about, everyday emotions getting intense. It's more like a deep, deliberate way of engaging with life. It comes from thinking hard about your own existence and where meaning could come from. It's a choice, really, to actively jump in.
For Dummies really hits on that living authentically, feeling truly alive. It quotes something like, to live freely, to feel truly alive. Sounds like it's about grabbing hold of that freedom, even when things are uncertain.
Exactly. The For Dummies stuff asks this great question. What's the difference between being a participator and just a detached observer?
Right.
And the answer is that passionate engagement. The participator dives in, lives the experiences, instead of standing back like life's just some problem to solve.
That makes sense. It's like actively writing your story versus just letting it happen to you. Another thing is finding a cause, something worth living for, maybe even dying for. Why is that so important in this framework?
Well, finding something that resonates, that deeply gives life a real weight, an intensity. It gives you a set of values, a kind of compass to steer by when things get ambiguous or tough, which they inevitably do.
And that doesn't have to be some world-changing cause, right? It could be something very personal.
Oh, absolutely. Totally personal. And this passionate way of living, it's not meant to be safe or predictable. The For Dummies source actually says mystery and risk are vital.
Really? Why?
Because they force you to engage more deeply. They stop life becoming just a dull, predictable routine. Keeps it authentic.
Okay, this sounds like where Kierkegaard fits in. His idea of a truth which is true for me. How does that build on this?
Kierkegaard's idea is huge here. He's saying that real understanding, the truth that matters to you, doesn't come from abstract rules or universal laws. It comes from your lived experiences, your passionate commitments.
Oh, okay.
It's a truth you feel deep down, when you've earned by engaging with the world, not just when you read in a book. But, and this is important, it's not just believe whatever you want. It comes with a heavy responsibility to really examine your values, your commitments. You have to earn that truth through experience and hard thought, not just whim.
So it's less about finding the answer and more about finding your answer through how you live?
You got it. Exactly. Now, another big piece existentialism tackles is, well, time and death. our limited time here. How does it view that?
Well, for Dummies points out that time isn't just backdrop. It's part of our very being. It shapes our story, our place in history, and, yeah, ultimately leads to our end. We're in time.
Mm-hmm. And knowing that it ends, knowing we're mortal, paradoxically, that can make life feel more valuable. It creates urgency, doesn't it? It pushes us to make choices that really line up with what we want, to appreciate the now, to spend our limited time on things that actually matter to us.
It's like knowing the clock is ticking makes you live more intentionally. The source also contrasts this with being inauthentic about the future, just sort of passively awaiting what society says success looks like.
Yeah, that passive waiting, just going along with the script, that's the opposite of existentialist thinking. It's giving up your freedom, your responsibility to actually make your own meaning and choose your own path.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit to Nietzsche. Big figure, often linked with existentialism. What's his main contribution here, especially about individuality?
Well, Nietzsche saw the self not as something you're just given, but as something you achieve, something you forge. Through conscious effort, constantly reevaluating your values.
Right.
It requires this ongoing process of self-overcoming, always questioning, always refining who you are and what you stand for, defining your own values, not just swallowing what you're told.
So the self isn't fixed, it's a project, something you're always working on.
Precisely. It demands you actively engage with the question, who do I want to become?
Mm.
And this focus on the individual, on meaning, it also really impacted psychology, didn't it?
Oh, absolutely. For Dummies talks about existential humanism popping up in psychology. And that was a big shift from earlier behaviorist stuff, which kind of downplayed free will, saw us as more determined.
Yeah, what's really interesting there is how existential humanism highlighted what makes us uniquely human. Creativity, free will, that basic drive for meaning. These psychologists argued that searching for meaning wasn't just some side issue, it was crucial for mental well-being, for a fulfilling life.
And that changed therapy too, right? Therapists started guiding people to find their own meaning, not just fixing symptoms. Figures like Rollo may come up, his idea of being in the world. What's that about?
Being in the world just emphasizes how connected we are to everything, our environment, our experiences.
Yeah.
May broke it down into 3 connected dimensions. Co-Welt, that's our relationship with the natural world. Mitwelt, our social world, interactions with others. And Eigenwelt, our own inner subjective world.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea is to find a way to live authentically, integrating all these aspects of our existence.
These ideas didn't just stay in philosophy departments or therapy rooms, though. Books and movies have been huge for exploring them.
Totally. For existentialists, literature was always a powerful way to explore these deep ideas in a very human way. Kafka's Metamorphosis, for example, such a strong look at alienation, the absurdity of things.
And Camus's Myth of Sisyphus, that's classic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Facing meaninglessness head-on, but still finding value in just pushing the rock. For Dummies even mentions imagining Sisyphus smiling on his way down the hill.
Yeah, that image nails the defiant acceptance Camus talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And then in film, you've got Bergman's The Seventh Seal, wrestling with God, death, meaning.
Heavy stuff.
Yeah, or Coppola's Apocalypse. Now digging into authenticity and sacrifice amidst total chaos.
And sci-fi too, like Blade Runner. That makes you ask what human even means when you have replicants with feelings, wanting to live.
Exactly. Blade Runner hits those core questions about existence. And even newer films, like Fight Club, exploring identity outside the usual boxes. Or Stranger Than Fiction, which plays with how narratives shape our sense of meaning.
Okay, so bringing it from these big philosophical ideas and art down to, well, everyday life. That Reddit discussion we looked at was all about how people actually cope when they feel existence is meaningless. What kind of things came up there?
Yeah, it was really raw and honest. One big theme was that tension. We humans seem wired to want meaning, but the universe doesn't seem to offer any built-in. A lot of people basically said, yeah, there probably isn't any grand, objective meaning.
But that didn't always lead to despair.
No, not always. Quite a few people stress the idea of creating your own meaning, seeing it as something you build yourself, a mindset shift.
Right.
The idea that life just is not inherently good or bad came up a lot too. It's like, okay, here's the neutral starting point. Now you decide what values and meanings to build on it. Religion, predictably, was viewed differently. A crutch for some, real comfort for others.
But even for those not religious, there was this focus on the present, finding joy in small things. Someone mentioned good coffee or a pet.
Yeah, exactly. And some people even question the whole concept of meaning. Like maybe we overthink it, Maybe it's a flawed idea to begin with.
Mhm.
Personal choice was huge too, what you choose to focus on. Like
Yeah.
one person said, you can dwell on the negative or you can consciously look for the positive.
That's powerful, that sense of agency. And people found meaning in work, relationships, just existing. I like the advice to paint your own purpose.
Perfect summary, isn't it? Captures that active role existentialism gives us. And interestingly, some found nihilism, accepting meaninglessness, kind of liberating.
Yeah.
Like, okay, no cosmic pressure. Basic things matter too, like getting enough sleep, eating well. Seems you need a foundation to even grapple with these big questions.
Makes sense.
And, appropriately enough, some suggested actually looking into existentialism, mentioning Sartre. But the overall feeling was definitely meaning is what you make it.
Now, sometimes this intense questioning, it can tip over into what we call an existential crisis. Better Up and Philosophy Break had some good stuff on this.
Right. An existential crisis, according to Better Up, is basically a period where you're deeply questioning everything: life, purpose, existence, often triggered by big life changes or just deep reflection.
And the feelings involved.
Uncertainty is a big one. Feeling overwhelmed because there's no obvious meaning, anxiety, maybe despair, confusion. It's a tough spot.
Sounds really unsettling. But Better Up also said it can be positive, an opportunity.
Yeah, that's the key reframe. You can actually be a powerful push to reconnect with your values, figure out what really gives you purpose, and maybe change course towards a more authentic life. Better Up lists common signs too: constant worry, anxiety, depression symptoms, low motivation, low energy, pulling back socially, feeling lost, sometimes even substance abuse to cope.
And they talked about different types, like questioning life's meaning or your values or dealing with big changes, loss, feeling untrue to yourself.
Exactly. And crucially, they offer ways to navigate it. Lean on loved ones, talk about your feelings, try mindfulness, set meaningful goals, embrace change, get creative, maybe join a support group, reconnect with your purpose.
And knowing when to get professional help.
Super important. If the thoughts are consuming, messing with daily life, if you're self-medicating or having suicidal thoughts, definitely seek help. They mention existential therapy exists specifically for this kind of thing. Talking to a pro can bring a lot of clarity.
Philosophy Break added a couple more angles, right? Kimo's define acceptance, Nagel suggesting humor.
Yeah, that humor part. Being able to find some lightness even when thinking about the big, heavy stuff. That can be a surprisingly useful coping tool. And Philosophy Break also brought up Sartre again: existence precedes essence, and Heidegger on authenticity, both hammering home that responsibility we have to create meaning.
So, wrapping up this deep dive, what's the main takeaway when we look at existentialism and the search for meaning?
I think the biggest thing, the idea that runs through all of it, is that meaning isn't just out there waiting for you to find it like buried treasure. Existentialism says it's something you create through how you choose to live, how you engage authentically with a world that doesn't give you easy answers.
Right, and whether that creation comes through passionate action or facing our mortality head on or deciding our own values, connecting with people, even getting through an existential crisis. The power to make life meaningful rests with us,
Yeah,
with you.
exactly. So the question to leave you with is this. After hearing all these perspectives, what will you choose to give meaning to in your life? What will be that Kierkegaardian truth which is true for you?